Good afternoon, fellow artists. Today, we are going to start a new project that focuses on the afterlife, cultural heritage boxes. Now, if this is a topic that's hard to talk about or discuss, we can discuss further through email what other thing you can create that strays away from this. But we will be jumping into a topic that can at times be a little odd to talk about, mainly because of things that we have experienced personally, perhaps, or maybe even because of how in the US we view death itself. So, some of the goals that we're going to be reaching for this project around are going to be that you will be able to talk about the tools and use tools safely in the classroom or at home. So, for this project, we will be primarily working with cardboard in a three-dimensional manner. And we will need to be using things like box cutters and X-Acto knives in order to be able to cut some pretty precise shapes. Now, I will be posting a video later on how to properly use an X-Acto knife and a box cutter simply because some of us may have not experienced using those tools in the art room or in life in general, and it is important to know how to use these tools wisely. The next goal we are going to reach is you will be able to discuss artworks with peers and you will be able to reflect and revise artwork according to feedback. In the classroom, we have done things such as sticky note feedback, where our peers will write down on a sticky note things that they enjoy about each other's artwork and things that may need to be stronger in order to make the artwork better. So in this project, we will be able to talk about our own artwork more and be able to be open to the idea of revising and changing things to make them better and stronger. We will also be able to create using a variety of materials and various art practices. So not only are we going to be using cardboard, but we will be also using mixed media. So for this project, you can use things such as paints, colored pencils, crayons. You may also use found objects such as beads, little picture frames, wallpaper, scrap paper, anything really that you can think of to create your box. Vocabulary we will be learning along the way are going to be heritage, cultural practices, memory box, and emphasis as a part of art and design elements. Cultural heritage. When we think of heritage, those are things that relate to our history. Not necessarily a physical thing that we own, but more of traditions that we carry on from ancestors or family members. In cultural heritage itself, the definition is that cultural heritage implies a shared bond, our belonging to a community. It represents our history and our identity, our bond to the past, to our present, and the future. So, for my example, my heritage is a Mexican cultural heritage, but it is also a mix of the American side of me because I am was born in America, but come heavily from a Mexican background. So I decided to tag this along with Day of the Dead and really just push this project to be more of a spooky vibe for the month of Halloween. So, question I have for you is what is the deal with the idea of death in Western culture? So, maybe not necessarily afterlife, but why do people have such an aversion to the idea of death? Some student examples in the classroom have been that people are very uncomfortable with thinking about the unknown. In today's society, we have things like the internet or our smartphones to have on hand to look up information, but we can't necessarily know what happens after death. There's also the idea that people will eventually forget you. And someone brought up the idea of a person dying twice. So a person physically passes away, and then the second time around is when the person is completely forgotten. So that was another idea that people in the classroom have touched upon. And then another one is vanity, the way we look at ourselves. We don't want to see ourselves as getting older and therefore deteriorating. And that is one of the things in America that people avert away from when it comes to talking about death. It is an uncomfortable topic, but it happens every day. So think about why that might be. Here's a couple of slides that I just decided to add in here for you for the fun of it. The left one, when you're supposed to be claiming souls, but our fabric is out of this world. Girl, is this silk? The one on the right, me absolutely dead inside, but enjoying the little things with the gato, who's trying to be a little silly. Bear with me there. All right, so Day of the Dead, I will explain that as part of my Mexican American heritage. Death in the Mexican culture is viewed not as the end of life, but the beginning of another one. Your physical body may no longer be working, but the spiritual one still goes on. And in the physical world, people in Mexico celebrate this holiday not only one day, which people would consider Halloween, but they celebrate it over the span of a few days. So this starts October 31st and goes all the way to November 2nd. If you look at the images here, you can tell that death is celebrated with rich colors of orange and yellows with marigolds. People dress and paint their faces like skulls. They bedazzle their face. They have pictures of their beloved people who have passed away. They have foods that those people liked, drinks, they have candles, they go all out to decorate for this occasion to remember their loved ones that have passed on. And this isn't just a party, this is more of a celebration of life and death and continuing the memory of the person who has passed on by telling stories and sharing memories, almost in a way helping to cope with the idea of loss, but also coming to terms with this will happen someday and how will we be celebrated. Again, Dia de los Muertos is celebrated October 31st to November 2nd. The two picture examples I have up on the screen on the left hand side here is a close up example of an altar. And the Mexican people make these altars they're called ofrendas in Spanish, and these are dedicated to the people who have passed on. If you, as you look here, we have pictures of people on the altar, but you also notice that there are foods here. We have apples, we have drinks. Most of the time, we put out a water glass out, so when the spirits cross over to Earth, they're able to drink some water to quench them from their long journey. But we also include favorite drinks on their tables. So if they liked things like juice or coffee or any other thing, that's what we set out on the table for them. We also include things to replenish their body food wise. On this altar, there are apples, there are bananas, and other yummy treats there that the person who had passed on could enjoy. We also have the traditional sugar skulls and the traditional marigolds, along with candles to decorate the altar. On the right hand side, you'll notice an even larger scaled altar here with many pictures of many people. There are many things that are included in this, including lights, flowers, and an abundance of color. In this celebration, not only are we celebrating the dead by making altars and creating sugar skulls, but in Mexico City, they create these gigantic, beautiful, and ornate floats for parades. We have dancers in the attire of skeletons, and it is a full out celebration of death and how we live among the time of our living selves and how we carry on through death. On the top here, we see a person with their face painted halfway like a skull, and the other half is a normal person, again, paying tribute to what the idea of death is and how we view it in our culture, which is more of a welcoming sign of another life, right? It's not the end, but the beginning of something else. And another thing that in the Mexican cultural heritage aspect of this is that people also visit the grave sites of those beloved people who have passed away. And not only do they leave flowers, but they decorate immensely with flowers. They don't take a whole day, they take days or maybe even weeks to decorate these things. They put food out for their loved ones. They have dinner, they have lunch, they share stories. It's a wonderful celebration, again, to bring to life those who have passed away. So, now with the topic of heritage and culture and making these memory boxes, what we are going to create are our own memory boxes that reflect our cultural heritage and how we view death or maybe the afterlife. But again, if you are uncomfortable with this subject, let me know and we will think about something else. But here are a couple of examples of some memory boxes. We have a small one over here with some lined wallpaper. We have flowers on top, picture frame. This person took the time to find pieces like food that their loved one liked. They have flowers, they have sugar skulls, the traditional stuff for them Dia de los Muertos. This one here made an elaborate top to their box and made additional decorations. They included, again, that small food statues as well as the sugar skulls. And on the right hand side, this person took it even further with their regular box and created an entire uh, ornate top and included little sugar skulls there. And at the bottom it says, Hasta muertos somos guapos, which means even dead we look good. But again, just think about what your heritage is. And if you don't know, maybe look into one that you're interested in and reflect on that when you make your project. Materials you'll need for this are cardboard boxes or shoe boxes if you have it, X-Acto knives or box cutters. You can also use a really good pair of scissors if you don't have either of those, hot glue or regular glue, paper, paintbrushes, paint, anything really that you can create a 3D memory box with, and then little extra trinkets. On some of those boxes, some beads, skull beads were used to decorate the sugar skulls and whatnot. You will also need your computer because you will be doing some research in order to create these boxes. We're not just going to throw things together and call it good. Requirements for this project: the measurements. The memory box must be at least 1 foot tall, 6 inches wide, and 3 inches deep. It needs to clearly showcase the aspect of heritage you have chosen, and we will be using the elements of design and art that we have already learned, which will be color, value, texture, and the new one we will be learning, emphasis. So be sure that those will be included, and I will discuss emphasis later on in a different thing here. But that is all I have for you. I will have a tutorial video for you to watch to see how we will be putting together our research on a Google document. So you may share that with me because research in art is a little different than what it would be in a regular English classroom. But do keep in mind that these